Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sabbath evening fellowship. Nice having you here, and we're ready to get started here.
Let's go ahead and pray. Our Father in heaven, thank you for this time. Thank you for the gathering together of your people. Pray, Lord, that you humble us, bring us into this time with reverent hearts, seeking your face. Help us, Lord, to sing your praises from our hearts. Please hide these words in our hearts that we have not sinned against you. Please, Lord, give us strength and help us out here, for we are weak and needy. Help us with the battle each day against the world, the flesh, and the devil. Cause us to grow in love for you, and love for one another. Please work all the Christian graces in us by your power and your might, that we would not trust the flesh, but that we would trust you, and that we would mortify the deeds of the body by your strength and power. Help us, Lord, to worship you right, to lift up your name, to see all of your wonderful attributes, for your mercies and graces, for your great work in Christ, for your great love towards us, atonement, and forgiveness of sins. Pray, Lord, that you'd sustain us, provide us spiritually and physically everything that we need, that you'd guide the things that we read, guide the things that we study as families. You'd draw us to yourself, draw our hearts near to you. Again, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the guests. Pray that you'd help everyone who's struggling with any health issues. You'd strengthen our hearts, our minds, make us ready and willing to serve you more and more. We ask all these things in the merits of Christ alone. Amen.
All right, everyone on the line. So we're planning on recording our next set of Psalms tomorrow morning, and then tonight we're to start this evening. We're planning on practicing those so that we can work out any bugs in preparation for the recording tomorrow morning, Lord willing. So, and then after that, I guess we have a reading as well. But just so you know what's going on, and so that means we may actually do a psalm more than once if we don't know it that well. I think most of these are pretty familiar, but we'll see. So bear with us if we do one more than once. And so our first one is 60A. We're doing 12 of them. We'll just go through them as we go through them here. So, all right. O God, thou hast rejected us, hast broken us once more. As thou with us hast angry been, O once again restore. For thou hast made the earth to quake, hast torn it fearfully. O hill escaping cracks, for lo, it shakes in agony. For thou hast made the people see the hardness of distress, and thou hast made them drink the wine of reeling drunkenness. But those that feared thee thou didst give a banner in their sight, that they might rally and be firm, made strong by truth and right. O grant that thy beloved ones may safe delivered be. O save them with thy strong right hand, and do thou answer me. Y'all want to do that one again?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes.
O God, thou hast rejected us, hast broken us once more. As thou with us hast angry been, O once again restore. For thou hast
hast made the earth to quake, hast torn it fearfully. Oh, heal its gaping cracks, for lo, it shakes in agony.
That last one. It shakes in agony.
Oh, okay.
It shakes in agony.
Thank you.
And then the other one, oh God that has rejected us, has broken us once more. Has thou with us, hast angry been, oh, once again restore, once again restore.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what are we on? The third verse? All right, we'll do this one in unison, and then we'll break into harmony on number 4 here.
Okay.
For thou hast made the people see the hardness of distress, and thou hast made them drink the wine of reeling drunkenness. But those that fear thee thou didst give a banner in their sight, that they might rally and be firm, made strong by truth and right. O grant that thy beloved ones may safe delivered be. O save them with thy strong right hand, and do thou answer me.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. All right. And the next one. God in his holiness declared, let me exulting shout. The land of Shechem I'll divide, and Succoth measure out. For all of Gilead is mine, Manasseh too I own. My head's defense is Ephraim, I Judah made my throne. My watchful I will mow, and make on Edom throw my shoe. O Palestine, because of me, let shouts break forth from you. O who will bring me in, the town besieged and fortified? And who as far as Edom's walls will bear my footsteps guide? But hast thou not indeed, O God, rejected us once more? And wilt thou not again, O God, go forth with us to war? Give help against the enemy, for man no help bestows. Through God we shall do valiantly, for he treads down our foes. What part?
The last stanza down there. It's that D up there.
Yeah. My head.
Yeah.
For all of Gilead is mine, Manasseh too I own.
We were singing 2 C's there instead
My head's
of B
defense.
flat. Yeah.
All right.
My head. Okay.
All right. Good enough.
Thank you.
All right. 61. My voice and prayer, O God, attend. From ends of earth to thee I send. My
my supplicating cry. When troubles overwhelm my breast, then lead me on the rock to rest, that higher is than I. In thee my soul has shelter found, and thou hast been from foes around, the tower to which I flee. Within thy house I will abide, and underneath thy wings will hide, forever safe in thee. For thou, O God, my vows hast heard, on me the heritage conferred, of him thy name that fears. Long life thou to the King will give, through generations he shall live, from age to age his years. Before his God he shall abide. O do thou truth and grace provide, to keep him in the way. So I thy name will ever sing, a song of praise will daily bring, that I my vows may pay.
Amen.
Amen.
Yes. Amen.
My soul
In silence waits for God, He's my salvation proved. He is my stronghold and my rock, I'll not be greatly moved. How long will ye a man assail, and seek to make him fall, as though he were a tottering fence, or like a leaning wall? They plot to bring his glory down, in lies they take delight, and while they bless him with their mouth, they curse with inward spite. My soul in silence wait for God, for he my hope has proved. He's my salvation, stronghold rock, and I shall not be moved. In God alone my glory is, and my salvation sure. My rock of strength is found in God, my refuge most secure.
Amen. All right. This is 62B. Bravo. Surely in silence my soul waits on God, for my salvation comes from Him. Surely He is my salvation and rock, so I will not be greatly moved.
Yet how long will your fury rush against a man? You would all slay and crush him like a falling wall. Surely they conspire to drive him from his lofty height. Loving lies they feign to bless, but inwardly they curse. Surely in silence my soul waits for God. My expectation comes from Him. Surely He is my salvation and rock, and therefore I will not be moved. For on God does my glory and salvation rest, and with God is my refuge and my rock of strength. In each time and circumstance, O people, trust in Him. Pour your hearts out to Him, for our refuge is in God. Surely all men are a breath and a life, lighter than breath upon the scales. Then do not trust in oppression and force, and do not long for stolen wealth. In your hearts do not hope that power will succeed, for in truth God declares that strength belongs to Him. So to you, my Lord, belongs the mercy of your grace, for you will repay to man according to his deeds.
Amen. All right. On Him, O people, evermore rely with confidence. Before Him pour ye out your heart, for God is our defense. The sons of man are vanity, the best of men alike. Together in the balance they are lighter than a sign. Then in oppression do not hope, nor yet for plunder lust. Though power and force may seem to thrive, in this build not your trust. For truly God has spoken once, He twice to me made known, that strength and power belong to God, and unto Him alone. For so it is that sovereign grace belongs to Thee, my Lord. For now, according to His work, does every man reward.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
You good with that? Everybody all right?
Yes.
All right. God thee, my God, I'll early seek,
My soul's athirst for thee. On dry and weary waterless, my flesh has longed for thee. Thus have I looked for thee before, within thy holy place, that there I might behold thy strength and glory of thy face. Because thy grace is more than life, my lips thee praise shall give. I in thy name will lift my hands and bless thee while I live. My soul with rich abundant food shall be well satisfied, with shouts of joy upon my lips, my mouth shall praise provide. And when I turn my thoughts to thee, upon thy bed at night, as watches pass I meditate on thee with great delight.
Sorry.
Thou
Thou art my help, I sing for joy in shadow of thy wings. For thy right hand has held me fast, to thee my spirit clings. But they go down to depths of earth, who would my soul destroy. They are delivered to the sword, for jackals to enjoy. The king shall then rejoice in God, and all that by him swear. For stopped shall be the mouths of those who do a lie declare.
Amen. Take a quick breath.
Everybody drink.
All right, we're on 63B as in boy. O God, you are my God, and early will I seek for you. My soul is athirst for you. My flesh cries out for you from out a dry and thirsty land, a land where no water is. For thus to behold you in splendid strength, I gazed after you in the holy place, since your grace is much more than life. My lips will give praise to you. I'll bless you while I live, and I will ever lift my hands to praise and confess your name.
My soul will be made full as with all choice and hearty meats. I'll praise you with joyful lips. I think of you thus as I lie in bed, and bring you to mind in the hours of night, since you ever have been my help. Your wings are my shield and joy. My soul clings fast to you, your right hand holds me safely up. When men would destroy my life, to depths of earth they go, they are delivered to the sword, to jackals become a prey. The King will rejoice and in God, and they boast aloud who have sworn in him, but the mouth will be made to stop of those who declare a lie.
Amen. All right. So we got 4 more. All right. Hear thou my voice, O God, when I make my complaint to thee. From terror of the enemy, do thou my life keep free. Hide me from secret plots of men, that evil doers be. From throng and tumult of the men that work iniquity. Their tongues they have already whet, to make them sharp as swords, and as their arrows they have aimed their sharp and bitter words, that they may at the innocent from ambush aim their shot. They without warning shoot at him, and feeling safe fear not. In all their evil purposes they bid themselves be bold. They talk of laying hidden snares, and say, who shall behold? They have devised injustices, a cunning plot they keep, because the inward thought of man is very hard is deep. But God will shoot a shaft at them, and wound them suddenly. For their own tongue shall them confound, and all who see shall flee. And then all men will stand in all the work of God declare, and they will thoughtfully observe what these his doings are. The righteous in the Lord will joy, in him will refuge take, and all who are upright in heart will boast of triumph make.
The last measure. Not stuck in the last
Free.
Sorry. Thank you. You did that very well.
You mean the second to last minute?
You're dumb. Yeah.
All right, the last stanza.
The last stanza.
From terror of the enemy, do thou my life keep free.
Okay.
From terror of the enemy, do thou my life keep free.
Okay. Because we have a tendency to go, do thou my life keep free. But it's the same note.
The third to the last and the second to last notes are the same, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Do thou my life keep free. Thank you.
All right. All right. Hear my voice,
O God, in my complaint. Guard my life from terror of the foe. Hide me from the plots of wicked men, from the noisy mob of evil ones. Men who whet their tongues as sharp as swords, who like arrows aim their bitter words, shoot from ambush at the innocent, without warning, with no fear of harm. They agree to form an evil plot. Secretly they talk of laying snares, saying, who shall see them or detect? They plan carefully their wicked schemes. They are ready with a cunning plot, for men's inward thought and heart are deep. God will shoot an arrow straight at them. Without warning they will wounded be. They will all be made to trip themselves. They'll undo themselves by their own tongue. All who see them then shall shake their heads. Then shall all men living be afraid. Publish what God does and learn His work. In the Lord the righteous shall be glad. He will always put his trust in Him. All the right in heart will boast with joy.
Amen. All right. Well, we could forego these last two and do them next time. I had this all mapped out. But that puts 12 on the next one instead of the 10 on the next one. So, I guess probably 6 and 1 after that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a long one too. 10, 11, 12. All right, we'll just go ahead and do them. So we're on 65A. Praise waits for thee in Zion, to thee vast faith shall be. O God of prayer, the hearer, all flesh shall come to thee.
Iniquities are daily prevailing over me, but all of our transgressions are covered o'er by thee. How blessed the man thou choosest and bringest near to thee, that in thy courts forever his dwelling place may be. We shall within thy temple be wholly satisfied, and filled with all the goodness thy sacred courts provide. O God of our salvation, thou in thy righteousness, with awesome deeds and wonders, thine answer wilt express. O thou in whom confiding all ends of earth agree, and people who are sailing upon the farthest sea.
Amen. All right. So your last one. 65B. Beaker. Thy might has built the mountains, power clothes thee evermore. To calm the nations' clamor and still the ocean's roar. Thine awesome signs and wonders fill distant lands with fear. Thou makest dawn and sunset for joy to shout and cheer. Thy visits bring the showers, thou dost enrich the field. God's river brims with water, thou dost prepare its yield. Thou waterest earth's furrows, clouds break down neath thy rain. Thou softenest earth with showers to bless each sprouting grain. Thou crownest years with goodness, thy steps enrich the ground. The desert pastures blossom, the hills with joy resound. The fields with flocks are covered, the vales with rain are clad. They all rejoice with shouting, they all with songs are glad. Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
All right. Thank the Lord. All right. We're going to have a reading now. For those of you on the line, we're going to get a smidge set up here.
All right. Came across a book online a while back that I'd never heard of before. I'm really thankful that God showed it to me. So we went ahead and ordered it. It's by John Flavel, a Puritan, and it's called Husbandry. Well, it's actually, this is his volume 5 out of 6 volumes of his complete works. And the one that caught my eye was Husbandry Spiritualized, and the rest of the bulk of the book, with a few other articles, is navigation Spiritualized, which was written for the sailors back then, draws parallels between farming, husbandry, and the Christian life, and also the sailing and the Christian life. And from what little I've read so far, it's just been everything I expected, and pretty excited about maybe reading it here from time to time. I read the intro last week, most of it at our meal. Thing is starting to, I got it, we got it yesterday, and it was wrapped really good, and 3 or 4 wrappings. I thought I'd never get it out of there, but it's almost 200 years old, this book, this actual book, as far as we can tell. And I did a lot of taping already. It looks like I'm gonna have to do some more. Anyway, I'll read tonight the first, this is how it's worded, the first part of Husbandry Spiritualized, chapter 1. Upon the industry of the husbandman. In the laborious husbandman you see what all true Christians are or ought to be. Observation. The employment of the husbandman is by all acknowledged to be very laborious. There is a multiplicity of business incumbent on him. The end of one work is but the beginning of another. Every season of the year brings its proper work with it. Sometimes you find him in his fields, dressing, plowing, sowing, harrowing, weeding, or reaping, and sometimes in his barn, threshing or winnowing, sometimes in his orchard, planting, grafting, or pruning his trees, and sometimes among his cattle, so that he hath no time to be idle. As he hath a multiplicity of business, so every part of it is full of toil and spinning labor. He eats not the bread of idleness, but earns it before he eats it, and as it were dips it in his own sweat, whereby it becomes the sweeter to him. Though sin brought in the husbandman's sweat, Genesis 3:19, yet now not to sweat would increase his sin, Ezekiel 16:49. Application. Behold here the life of a serious Christian, shadowed forth to the life. As the life of a husbandman, so the life of a Christian is no idle nor easy life. They that take up religion for ostentation and not for an occupation, and those that place the business of it in notions and idle speculations, or in forms, gestures, and external observances, may think and call it so, but such as devote themselves unto it and make religion their business will find it no easy work to exercise themselves to godliness. Many there are that affect the reputation and sweet of it, who cannot endure the labor and sweat of it. If men might be indulged to divide their heart betwixt God and the world, or to cull out the cheap and easy duties of it, and neglect the more difficult and costly ones, it were an easy thing to be a Christian. But surely to have a respect to all God's commandments, to live the life as well as speak the language of a Christian, to be holy in all manner of conversation, is not so easy. This will be evident by comparing the life of a Christian with the life of a husbandman in these 5 particulars, wherein it will appear that the work of a Christian is by much the harder work of the two. 1. The husbandman hath much to do, many things to look after, but the Christian more. If we respect the extensiveness of his work, he hath a large field indeed to labor in. Psalm 119:96. Thy commandment is exceeding broad, of a vast extent and latitude, comprising not only a multitude of external acts and duties, and guiding the offices of the outward man about them, but also taking in every thought and motion of the inner man within its compass. You find in the word a world of work cut out for Christians. There is hearing work, praying work, reading, meditating, and self-examining work. It puts him also upon a constant watch over all the corruptions of his heart. Oh, what a world of work hath a Christian about him. For of them he may say, as the historian doth of Hannibal, they are never quiet, whether conquering or conquered. How many weak, languishing graces hath he to recover, improve, and strengthen? There is a weak faith, a languishing love, dull and faint desires to be quickened and invigorated. And when all this is done, what a multitude of work do his several relations exact from him. He hath a world of business incumbent on him. As a parent, child, husband, wife, master, servant, or friend, yea, not only to friends, but enemies. And besides all this, difficult things are there to be borne and suffered for Christ. And yet God will not allow his people to neglect any one of them. Neither can he be a Christian that hath not respect to every command, and is not holy in all manner of conversation. Psalm 119:6 and 2 Peter 3:11. Every one of these duties, like the several spokes in a wheel, come to bear in the whole round of a Christian's conversation, so that he hath more work upon his hands than the husbandman. 2. The husbandman's work is confessed to be spending work, but not like the Christian's. What Augustus said of the young Roman is verified in the true Christian. It's Latin, and I didn't look that up. But anyway, whatsoever he doth in religion, he doth to purpose. Under the law, God rejected the snail and the ass, Leviticus 11:30 and Exodus 13:13. And under the gospel, he allows no sluggish, lazy professor, 1 Timothy 5:11 and 13. Sleepy duties are utterly unsuitable to the living God. He will have the very spirits distilled and offered up to him in every duty. John 4:24. He bestows upon his people the very substance and kernel of mercies, and will not accept from them the shells and shadows of duties. Not the skin, but the inwards, and the fat that covereth the inwards, were required under the law, Exodus 29:30. And every sacrifice under the gospel must be a sacrifice full of marrow. Observe the manner in which their work is to be performed. Romans 12:11, in serving God, fervent in spirit or hissing hot. 2 Peter 1:10, in securing salvation, diligent or doing it thoroughly and enough. 1 Timothy 4:7, in godliness, exercising or stripping themselves as for a race. And Luke 13:24, in the pursuit of happiness, striving even to an agony. Acts 26:7, in prayer, serving God instantly or in a stretched out manner, yea, pouring out their hearts before him. Psalm 52:8, as if the body were left like a dead corpse upon the knees, whilst the spirit is departed from it and ascended to God. This is the manner of his work. Judge then how much harder this work is than to spend the sweat of the brow in manual labor. 3, the husbandman finds his work as he left it. He can begin one day where he left the other, but it is not so with the Christian. A bad heart and a busy devil disorder and spoil his work every day. The Christian finds not his heart in the morning as he left it at night. And even when he is about his work, how many setbacks doth he meet with? Satan stands at his right hand, the working hand, to resist him. Zechariah 3:1, when he would do good, evil, the evil of his own heart and nature, is present with him. 4, the husbandman hath some resting days, when he throws aside all his work and takes his recreation. But the Christian hath no resting day till his dying day, and then he shall rest from his labors. Religion allows no idle day, quote, but requires him to be always abounding in the work of the Lord, 1 Corinthians 15:18. When one duty is done, another calls for him. The Lord's day is a day of rest to the husbandman, but no day in the week so laborious to the Christian. Oh, it is a spending day to him. When he hath gathered in the crop of one duty, he is not to sit down satisfied therewith, or say, as that rich worldling did, Luke 12:19, soul, take thine ease, thou hast goods laid up for many years, but must to plow again, and count it well if the vintage reach to the seed time. Leviticus 26:5. I mean, if the strength, influence, and comfort of one duty to another duty, and that it may be so, and there be no room left for idleness, God hath appointed ejaculatory prayer to fill up the intervals betwixt stated and more solemn duties. These are to keep in the fire, which kindled the morning sacrifice to kindle the evening sacrifice. When can the Christian sit down and say, now all my work is ended, I have nothing to do without doors or within? Lastly, there is a time when the labor of the husbandman is ended. Old age and weakness takes them off from all employment. They can look only upon their laborers, but cannot do a stroke of work themselves. They can tell you what they did in their younger years, but now, say they, we must leave it to younger people. We cannot always be young, but the Christian is never superannuated, which is old age taking over. Anyway, yeah, I looked that up, but I can't remember exactly, but it's talking about old age ending your ability to work. So the Christian is never ending his work as to the work of religion. Yea, the longer he lives, the more his master expects from him. When he is full of days, God expects he should be full of fruits. Psalm 92:14, they shall bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing. And he's got three reflections here to end it. One is the worldling's reflection. And it's interesting that as I read this is from hundreds of years ago, a worldling was talked to as almost a professing Christian, as you'll see as I read this. So this is, according to him, the worldling's reflection. How hard have I labored for the meat that perisheth, prevented the dawning of the day, which means he got up before the dawn of the day, and labored as in the very fire, and yet is the Christian's work harder than mine? Surely then I never yet understood the work of Christianity. Alas, my sleepy prayers and formal duties, even all that ever I performed in my life, never cost me that pains that 1 hour at plough hath done. I have either wholly neglected, or at best so lazily performed religious duties, that I may truly say, I offer to God what cost me nothing. Woe is me, poor wretch! How is the judgment of Korah spiritually executed upon me? The earth opened her mouth and swallowed up his body, but it hath opened his mouth and swallowed up my heart, my time, and all my affections. How far am I from the kingdom of God? 2 is the formalist's reflection. And how little better is my case, who have indeed professed religion, but never made it my business. Will an empty, though splendid, profession save me? How many brave ships have perished in the storms, notwithstanding their fine names, like the prosperous, the success, the happy return. A fine name could not protect them from the rocks, nor will it save me from hell. I have done by religion as I should have done by the world, prayed as if I prayed not, and heard as if I heard not. I have given to God but the shadow of duty, and can never expect from him a real reward. And 3 is the reflections of a slothful Christian. How unlike a Christian thou also, O my soul, go about thy work. Though upright in the main, yet how little zeal and activity dost thou express in thy duties. Awake, love and zeal, seest thou not the toil and pains men take for the world? How do they prevent the dawning of the day, and labor as if in the very fire till night, and all this for a trifle? Should not every drop of sweat which I see trickle from their brows fetch, as it were, a drop of blood from my heart, who am thus convinced and reproved of shameful laziness by their indefatigable diligence? Do they pant after the dust of the earth? Amos 2:7. And shall not I pant after God? Psalm 42:1. Ah, my soul, it was not wont to be so with thee in the days of my first profession. Should I have had no more communion with God in duties then, as he did now, it would have broken my heart. I should have been weary of my life. Is this a time for one to stand idle, who stands at the door of eternity? What, now slack-handed, when so near to my everlasting rest? Romans 13:11. Or hast thou found the work of God so unpleasant to thee? Proverbs 3:17. Or the trade of godliness so unprofitable? Psalm 19:12. Or knowest thou not that millions are now in hell, perished for want of serious diligence in religion? Luke 13:34. Nor doth my diligence for God answer to that which Christ hath done and suffered to purchase my happiness, or to the preparations he hath made in heaven for me? Or dost thou forget that thy master's eye is always upon thee, whilst thou art lazying and loitering? Or would the damned live at this rate, as I do, if their day of grace might be recalled? For shame, my soul, for shame. Rouse up thyself, and fall to thy work, with a diligence answerable to thy weight thereof. For it is no vain work concerning thee, it is thy life.
Yes.
And there's a poem here I'm not going to read. There's a poem at the end of every one of his. Some of them are really good. But I'm not going to read this one. So they're all kind of that length, some a little longer, and he generally plays the formalist, or somebody else besides the true Christian. It's very interesting how he puts things and helps teach by that manner. Chapter 2 is upon the thriftiness of the husband, and the first few I've read are all really good, and they're even better than that one in my opinion. So really thankful to have this, and we'll see how it goes. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll go to our last song, please, which is 41C, and Charlie and our Psalter. Blessed
Be the Lord, the God of Israel, from everlasting to everlasting. Amen and amen. Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, from everlasting to everlasting. Amen and amen.
Amen. All right. Thank the Lord. Excuse me. Everyone on the line, nice having you with us. To let you know, we're not broadcasting or streaming the singing tomorrow morning because we're recording, and so we don't stream that usually. But we do plan to stream tomorrow afternoon's reading normal time. That's the plan anyway, assuming weather permits. So, otherwise, go in God's peace, and Lord willing, we will talk to you again soon.